action items, approval of financial statement.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Approval of bylaws update.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Was that going to be revisited in reference to what Dan mentioned?
We have to vote on it. It's on the agenda. We have to
We
vote
have to
on
vote,
it. And
right.
we may pass it and not have to revisit it.
Does anyone have any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Does not carry. Approval of graduation requirements policy update.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
So this graduation requirement is mandated by the state for the upcoming year?
No,
For next year?
2020.
2020.
For 2020.
For the class of 20.
The class of
The class
2020.
that's entering
Yeah.
next year.
Right.
So we would have one more year. Would it be next year's freshman class would be under this, guys?
No, the seventh graders now would be the first class.
The seventh graders. So we have a couple of years to revise this change before it would be effective on that 2020 class.
I think you're into next year.
Do we have one more year to?
Yeah. They're raising, the policy raises the graduation requirements next year by 1 credit for the class of 2019. So that would be the 8th graders going in now, right? And then when 2020 goes in, then that's when the state is requiring the minimum graduation credits.
But the other component too is with the NEASC review, is to see that you are offering a more rigorous coursework, not only singletons, but throughout the 4 years, the expectations that there's more credits for graduation. So that'll be a major piece that NEASC will be looking at.
Just listening to that young lady, it's kind of like by throwing quantity, are you actually creating quality of? I mean, what are they really concerned about? Are they just concerned about the quantity that you show you have 25 credits and the quality is inferior? Would it be better to, I mean, I don't know if we even have that option to have this type of conversation, but.
I think it'll allow for the options program that we're trying to develop for students, so that, because they're also asking that every student have 4 years of math, 4 years of science. So how do you get the your four courses in? That's what they're doing. They're not only just upping the course requirements, they're also saying how many you need. Now it's, I think, 4, 4, 3, 3, and it'll be 4 across the 4 major content areas.
Would it be possible to have that in the lower grades, the credit classes?
Well, we do offer some high school credit, so that when those students come to high school, they can take college credit. But,
Catch up on those extra credits.
I'm going to vote against it just for the reason that I've been thinking about this for years. I just think it's the wrong direction to try to force many students who aren't planning to go to college, and these types of college-based curriculums are actually doing them a disservice. They're creating a group of students who are going to just drop out, either physically or psychologically, when they become disengaged by these types of requirements that they see no reason to fulfill, nor will they fulfill. And I know you do a great job to try and bring them back and engage them, but I think it's the wrong direction that public schools are trying to impose upon kids.
Well, but Torrington High School is a comprehensive high school, and so that's why, you know, we have to follow what the state says as a comprehensive high school.
I mean, the state should know that there's people at the local level who disapprove of their mandates. So,
I mean, I appreciate all the work the policy did on this. I have two concerns. One, adding additional credit for next year is gonna mean that 387 kids are gonna need to find another class. And I know that historically, freshmen end up with single, double study halls because there's not enough classes to take. So in my mind, that's gonna translate to, we have to add courses, staff, to provide classes for these kids to take. And I just feel that to implement a policy without having a plan in place of how these kids are gonna access the credits, will be approving new courses, what's the budgetary impact, just concerns me. So that is the only reason I am not gonna vote in support of it, and it's not, I know you guys did a lot of work on this, and I feel that, but I'm concerned about implementing a policy without understanding the impact of the policy.
I just again say, from what I'm reading, there's a possibility that this may not even happen. You know, at the very least, it will be delayed. It may never be passed that the requirement is mandated.
If the high school goes to its yet again different schedule for next year, there will be essentially 8 credit opportunities as opposed to the 7 that exist now. Which means you're going to need to have something to fill students' time, unless you want to set up the kind of schedule where they could get as many credits as they need by the middle of the senior year, for instance, and then the middle of the year.
But that would assume that we have enough staff in place to facilitate those courses. That's
Yeah, I really don't think we're going to find a problem, but you're right, we did not do the statistical analysis to do it. But I think we're fine, we have the capacity.
Then I guess my thing would be, then why are all the freshmen getting study halls instead of electives? I mean, they're the
Lots
last pick of the
reasons.
litter.
No, there are a lot of reasons for that, and some of them certainly would point to your objections.
Dan?
Talk about that at some other time.
Yeah.
As much as I like to see everybody advance at this point, unless it becomes a mandate, I think first priority is to make sure that Torrington High School is running efficiently. Then once we get Torrington High School running as efficiently as possible, then we can look at expanding the credit requirements, or if it becomes a mandate, deal with it at that point.
I agree with a lot of what's being said here. I come from a little bit different scenario. These strange study halls that I hear about, I didn't have any of that stuff when I went to high school. You came to class at 8 o'clock in the morning, 2:30, 3 o'clock, whatever time it was, you left. You had a full schedule. We managed. So I think it should be our goal to have the high school kids come in, whatever time they come in the morning, they're there doing schoolwork until the moment they leave, period. The study hall seems like a waste of time to me, because I don't know that they're actually studying, for one. We still allow all the cell phones, so I doubt it. So why wouldn't they be in instruction? Just because the state says do this and do that doesn't mean that we can't actually go above and beyond. We're trying to attract people to town, make ourselves stand out. Here's a great opportunity.
Anybody from this side?
I agree that it needs to be looked at more as far as the practical implications. And what the mayor said is interesting to me about the fact that it may not indeed become a mandate. So I would pause on it just for those reasons.
No, it is a mandate now,
It is a
but
mandate.
they could
They
change
make
it again.
unmandated.
Yeah.
They could unmandate mandate. So which part of it is a mandate currently?
The
Class of 2020. seventh graders now. Beginning,
Says commencing with classes graduating in 2020 and for each graduating class thereafter, no local or regional board of education shall permit any student to graduate from high school with brand A diploma to any student who has not satisfactorily completed a minimum of 25 credits. And then it goes on to list, including but not fewer than blah, 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 and what will add up to that. And that's statute 10-221A, high school graduation requirement. So, you know, I mean, so I'm just reading that just for fact.
And that's kind of my point. We're looking at this and we're saying, okay, we want to meet the state minimum. Back with that. If we have the time and the schedule for these kids for the 4 years to do above what the state mandates.
but we don't have the staff.
Right, and I'm with you about evaluating and doing all those things, because all of that makes sense. I'm just saying that we should make it our goal to stand above the rest. Shooting for the minimum just aggravates me, I'm sorry.
All right, that's it, then we'll move it to a vote. Those in favor of approving the graduation requirement policy update, opposed? The motion does not carry. Approval of students with outstanding food service account balance policy. Someone want to move that?
I'll move it and take out the last sentence.
So Ellen is making the motion to approve it, eliminating the sentence that they will prohibit students from participating in student activities.
It doesn't say they will, it says they can.
Right, doesn't say they will. It says can.
But your motion is to remove the whole last sentence?
Yes.
Okay, I'll second that motion. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
I'm sorry, just one opposed?
Yeah.
Yes.
I just couldn't see.
Yeah, I
No, no.
abstain because I'm not, just not sure.
One abstention.
Yeah,
One
I
no.
got it now.
Yeah.
I think it could be phrased differently and be left in there and give us an option that we won't have to take out. I would be for reading it, but that was my choice.
Cut the policy reading.
Motion, does anyone want to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Oh, well. I noticed the name that I passed.
That will actually be moved to the April meeting. They were unable to locate the employee that involved.
My name's not on.
It's not on here because the employee wasn't able to be notified, so it's being pushed.
Okay, great.
Oh, you sure the name is not on there?
It isn't.
No.
Well, it's on the computer here, so I don't know what that means.
Sixth from the bottom.
Okay, so then the motion should be amended to remove that name. It is not supposed to be on there. It's for the April meeting.
So moved. I'll amend my motion.
And it's the last,
Sixth month of,
okay, so the motion is to approve the consent agenda minus Daniel Burke. Second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion?
Yeah. Why? Been very close. I don't even understand.
Well, because Mr. Nargi had requested that it be separated out, but they were unable to get in touch with the employee, or the previous employee that needs to be noticed about the discussion of it. So, because the proper notice is going to be moved to the next meeting.
Okay.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Comments for the good of the order? Start with you.
Okay, it's two-part. First one is, I would like to have permission to speak to the board's attorney, Mills, privately on a board matter pertaining to procedure. And I'm asking that either the chair or some type of informal nodding by the board members that I can do this. I'm not positive that I don't have the right, with or without the consent or approval of the chair or the board, to privately speak to the board's attorney about a board matter is needed, but I certainly would like to have that. And in the alternative, I would request that if I'm not granted that permission, that in the alternative, I request that the board to invite Attorney Mills to come to Torrington, to go into executive session, to deal with this matter under our attorney-client relationship.
Just for clarification, so your request is that either you be allowed to privately go to the board's attorney?
I'll just call them up, and it's mostly just a procedural matter in which I would be able to ask him how I can bring forth to the board for discussion, either publicly or in private, without violating anyone's rights or the rights of the board to do this correctly.
Do you think that this would be an item better heard by the whole board in executive session? Or do you want to do it?
Just this one matter, the real problem is I've been thinking about this for a long time. I can't quite articulate how to ask because I originally was going to ask to have it put on the agenda, but then I can't quite figure out how you have a discussion about why you would vote to go into executive session without some type of naming of names, and so as to make sure, like I say, I do not violate anyone's rights. Let's have the board's attorney just tell me what I need to do to ask you, the board, how to get this onto the agenda.
Because I think if it's policies that you're looking at, we should be having our retreat.
It's
coming
not
up.
policy.
Procedures or.
It's about, well, it's procedure as far as discussing, let's say, conduct of people that are within the scope of our authority to observe and to somewhat evaluate. And like I say, if you would rather have me ask this question to the board's attorney with the board here, I have no problem. It's just that I would assume you're going to have to set up a meeting with the board. You're going to have to go into executive session, and you're going to have him come out, which I would assume will cost a little bit more money than just me asking him a 5-minute question.
And I guess my only concern with that, and this isn't my decision at all, I'll pass it on to the chair, but my concern with that would be no one else is privy to the interpretation he's giving you. So
No, I mean, it would be, clearly once he gives, my asking the question is really a question that would clearly be, like I always ask when the chair talks to the board, even though it hasn't been the case. Whatever his conclusion is, whatever his recommendation is, that he would immediately, whatever he would say to me, I would request that he give to the entire board at that same time. So it's not like I'm looking for a personal.
But see, then to me, it would seem better served for the whole board to hear the discussion.
Okay, then.
But
Then-
I'll pass it on to the chair, and if anyone else wants to comment, what they feel about it.
Okay.
You know, because we could be getting an opinion, but we're not sure exactly what you asked.
Yeah, that's why I think it would be better to, the only thing you need to do, as far as I would be concerned, is just to make sure that you asked the board's attorney how we phrase going into executive session. And,
So would you guys mind just taking a straw poll to see if you're in favor of paying the board attorney to come out for this process so that I can forward it on to the chair? Bill, you?
I would be, I would be we're still on Andrew's suggestion?
Yes, it's just a straw poll of if you'd be in favor of paying the board attorney to come out. and
Yes, I
talk.
would.
Okay.
What is the typical, I mean, I think my understanding of your question, Andrew, is that you as a board member want to request an executive session, but you want to make sure you do it in a way that doesn't violate anybody's rights.
Right.
Is there not a procedure for?
Well, he wants
that?
the attorney for the board to come out for the meeting.
that's the alternative. If you want to try to save some money, I could just privately ask him how to do it, and then he can relay that to the chair on how to set that up.
So the request of the attorney is just how to get into executive session? Not
Yes,
what
without
not the
violating-
topic of what the
No, I
executive
don't
session
want,
is?
yeah, that, right now, we just need to be able to figure out how to get into executive session to discuss this. And then we, as a board, can go forward.
Is that a question, like a Robert's Rules type of question?
I was thinking the same
Member of
thing.
the board can call for
There
a
has to be a way to
There has
be
to
able
be
to go
just
into
to
a
vote.
session
Wouldn't be the
without.
first time.
Well, there's specific reasons you can go into executive session.
Right.
I mean,
But there's people that if we're going to discuss,
Have to be
because it's behavior that we're talking
Well,
about.
then they would have to
that-
be noticed and they can request that it be held in open session.
Right, and I would not feel comfortable as the person requesting this to just state names without knowing, just technically, from the board's attorney, how you do that.
Well, if it's just a question of Robert's rules and procedure, I've changed my mind. I don't, now that it's been clarified, I don't see that we need for the attorney to come out.
But then we can't move past, get into executive
Well, you
session. I mean,
can't- I
we
mean,
can do it without.
The employees
the
have
attorney.
rights for a reason.
What's
You can't
that?
bypass the employees' rights. I mean, that's their right if they're going to be discussed to, one, have the opportunity to have it held in open session so they can participate in it. So that's not, I mean, we can't alter what the rules are.
I mean, if the situation is serious enough that we have to talk about it, the person should definitely be notified, I think, right?
Yes, and all I'm trying to say is that I think it's better to spend, say, the hourly rate. My question's gonna be like a 5-minute question, and I don't know if he's going to have to spend that much billable time, but I think it's worth the investment to do this,
All right, well,
start
let's
this
do
process
two-
off correctly.
Let's do 2 straw polls. First we'll do you want the attorney to come out to just discuss Andrew's issue on how we would go about the process? Bill?
We don't have that in our policies and procedures already?
No.
This is actually a state statute, Bill.
Huh?
FOI is actually a state statute.
Oh,
Um,
that I
And I can
understand.
understand why a board member may have a question as to, you know, how procedurally you word that, or does it qualify for executive session? And
But with that said, we did do the FOI training where we already had Richard Mills come out and go over with, I mean, the new board members unfortunately wouldn't have had the opportunity, but we all did get the training.
I was here when
I've
Tom
had
came
that
out.
training, and I'll tell you, I'm still not an expert in FOI. I'm still not, you know, and if it's a simple question of there's a matter that a board member wishes to get on an agenda, and prefers that it be an executive session and has a serious question as to whether or not it qualifies, I think that's money well spent, you know, instead of, this board has already had its wrist slapped over FOI issues, so why tempt it?
I make a suggestion? Anyone can call Tom Penny at the FOI and ask a question as a citizen, as a board member,
Right.
any case, to get guidance about the proper way to proceed. And he's terrific. Joe will tell you even more than I am than I can.
I'm not going to risk board's liability to talk to someone that I haven't established, we don't, as a board, have an established attorney-client relationship. Part of talking to the board's attorney is that we do have an attorney-client privilege, and that is protected communication.
All right, let's just move the straw poll, and then we'll decide what direction the board as a whole wants to go in, because it is not in line with what we typically do with legal. So the first one is, Bill, if we have the attorney come out to discuss basically the FOI and executive session.
Yes.
I'm in support of contacting the attorney. It doesn't really matter to me personally if he comes out or if somebody consults him.
No.
I support Andrew's desire to talk to the attorney, whichever forum we determine to be appropriate.
So I'll pass that information on to the board chair. Okay.
No,
Oh,
I
you have
said I had two
one.
parts. And now, the second part of my for the good of the order is, I request the following information. First one is, I request all invoices for snow removal from private vendors for the last 8 years. 2, I request the list of vendors who were on the call list for the last 8 years for snow removal. 3, I request the public notices requesting an invitation to bid on snow removal work for the last 8 years. 4, I request how were these expenses budgeted? And 5, if any of these were emergency expenses, then what procedures were done to comply with the city charter and the Board of Ed's rules and procedures?
So are you FOIing these? Do you want them put on?
I can do this based on having the parties that are going to give me this information respect the fact that it's coming from a board member, an active board member, or if you want me to do the actual filling out the request and make me go through that process, then I'll do that as well. Either way, I mean, I feel that I deserve the courtesy of being able to ask at this meeting this information as a board member, that I'm entitled to it, both as a citizen but also as a board member. But if you want to push me to the...
Well, no, I mean, you have a lot. So
yeah, I
maybe
just,
you can put in writing exactly what you're looking for, would be best. Or send an email. Send an email, exactly what you're looking for.
Exactly what you said tonight.
Okay, I'll just write it and I'll bring it to you. I'll give it to you tomorrow night. And is there any procedural aspects that you or the board would want me to do to ensure that I get this information?
Request it, you should get it.
What's that?
If you request it, you should get it, but I think you have to keep in mind that right now, the business department for the next few weeks is gonna be flat out with budget. So I think from a time standpoint, expecting that they're gonna be able to pull 8 years' worth of stuff up is probably not gonna happen overnight.
I would hope that I can get it within 2 weeks.
If it wasn't prime budget season, I would think that would be acceptable, but right now, it's really a priority that the business department is working on the budget,
Okay,
not
well,
going
that's why
back
I'm
8 years of
asking-
data. So once the budget goes to the city, I would think that the business department will be freed up to take back 8 years, but I don't think it's a good use of business department's time to be taking up 8 years of invoices during the heat of our budget season. That would be my concern.
Okay, I'll make the request and I'll hope that they'll act in good faith if they have the time to do it in an expeditious manner. Otherwise, I'll respect the fact that we do have a great deal of pressing issues to deal with. Thank you.
Bill?
Yeah, the first year band at Tornwood Elementary School is going to be having a concert next Tuesday in their cafeteria. 7 o'clock, I believe the time is.
Just wanted to thank the superintendent's office for making the changes on the website that were referenced the other night. I did notice that the link to the budget is on the homepage, and the district improvement plan and the goals are up there as well. So I think that's a step in the right direction. So thank you. Are we going to talk about voting to put the whole thing on there tonight?
I found out that we can make that decision at any time. It doesn't have to be voted on.
Oh, okay.
So we can talk about it tomorrow night. Seems that everybody is in support of doing that.
I mean, could we set that now, and then it could be online, so that if people come tomorrow night, they have a chance to see it?
The only thing we were thinking is because we haven't really, the budget committee hasn't had a discussion on what was handed out yet. So after tomorrow's meeting, we'll have an overview of it, and then it could be put up after that.
So like prior to the weekend? Well, because we have our next public forum on Monday, so it would be well in advance of that for use.
We just rolled the, from level 1 to level 2. And that would be my only, concern, that we make sure that as we're doing it, we're, taking the one down and putting the other one up, and we're announcing, well, I'm not directed to you, but you're the one posting it, so.
You tell me what to post, I'll post it.
We had talked about just labeling them working copies with dates.
Yeah, and I
So
looked
that
at,
people would
yeah.
know. Because they will change every meeting.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I thought about it the other night after you made your comment, John. It's like, yeah, should put it out there. I mean, some of the things clearly are in flux, but.
Well, last year, the board got electronically transmitted the whole package on February 24th, and we got copies out to both the local newspapers. And I'm still not sure why we just didn't do that automatically this year.
Well, going forward, we can.
Ellen?
TMS is having Hairspray Junior next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, 7 p.m. I apologize, I haven't had a chance to touch base with East School.
John?
History Day award ceremony was a beautiful thing. My kids did very well, as reported in the newspapers. All I can say is
Yeah.
Nothing.
I am looking forward to speaking about things way more important than snow. That's all I have.
The only item I had is, in the future, I would like to see us do a little bit better job of getting things into our packets on Friday that we're going to discuss at the board meetings. It's very difficult for me to receive things at the meeting. I'd really like to have an opportunity to look at things prior to, so if it's on the agenda, I would like to personally see it attached to my packet the week before, just so that, obviously, we're not gonna have the presentation, but I can still look through the information. And I had the opportunity to go to the invention convention. It was great. I was a little disappointed that there was not an administrator at either of the presentations. And I did voice that concern to the building as well, but these kids spent 14 weeks working on this project. And I just thought it was an opportunity to get face-to-face with every seventh grade parent. So that was a little discouraging, but the kids did a great job. And then the dodgeball tournament is looking for any people from the community that are willing to team together.
Take a ball to the face.
Right.
That would be smart.
Okay, committee reports, budget is busy. And tomorrow night will bring lots of good information, I'm sure. So anyone that wants to come, 6 o'clock, Mitchell Avenue. Grievance has also been very busy. We are going to try on Thursday of this week to possibly work with 1579 to negotiate an agreement out before we go to arbitration on the custodial overtime for our sporting events.
There's nothing on the calendar. Does that need to be on the calendar? There's nothing on the district calendar for this Thursday.
It's for 5:30.
There's nothing on the district.
Yeah, I'll put it on. That's a very good point. We'll need an agenda. That's the only item on it. So yes, that's a very good point, John. Thank you. I'll make sure that goes up tomorrow.
Actually, it is tomorrow. Okay.
24 hours, right?
Right. I'll have to look, because it's a continuation of our last.
It's a continuation of the last one.
Still shouldn't be posted.
Be high up, because now
Yes.
it's a public meeting.
Yeah, it should be posted, so we'll have to move that.
We'll have to move that. I'll ask him for another date.
All right, personnel.
No meeting this month, as everybody's focused on budget.
Policy.
Well, everybody but policies focused on budget. We've got bylaws to review again, self-evaluation, graduation to go back again, electronic use, liaisons, and grant policy. So we're busy in that board.
School improvement.
In addition to the usual suspects on the agenda, we will have, I think, a prolonged discussion on community relations and marketing, and an update on full-day kindergarten, which will not include a PowerPoint.
No, we can't show you the DRA scores.
Won't bother me. We can put them on Facebook.
All right,
Don't you want to
THS,
say what you
THS oversight panel?
Oversight, basically, student governments and NEASC have kept the committee busy, such as it has been. And to just go on to Ed Connection, Board of Directors met the first Thursday of this month. We meet again on Thursday, actually Holy Thursday, the 2nd of April, in Danbury, in the new building down in Danbury. They bought a school down there, so we will be meeting down there. But meeting with our lobbyists as well on some of these issues that we've been discussing about statewide calendar and funding, et cetera, et cetera. I may have something at the next meeting to report if that turns out to be what we talked about. Thank you.
Deerfield.
I have an email from Mario, the co-chair of the turf committee, and he wrote to me stating to tell the board and the general public that snow is melting. Once it is close to gone, we will examine the site closely to see how it held up during the winter. The punch list is down to 6 to 10 items, including regrading and reseeding. Other than the punch list, the facility is 100% done. We are still holding about $70,000 from the contractor and $10,000 from the architect to ensure completion. The CO is in place, and only a final sign-off is needed. As discussed in previous communications, the only CO we needed was on structures, the bleachers, and buildings, the press box. In the spring, we will invite the city up for a final walkthrough. If you have any questions for Mario or Ed, contact them, and I think it's all very optimistic, and can't wait for the snow to be gone and the kids to enjoy the field. We'll all be happy.
Okay, thanks. Items for upcoming agenda, financial statements, committee report.
Everything. Budget. I started putting things in the file for the next meeting, and I can't pull one of them out of my head right now.
We put on here the future meetings for the upcoming month, just because there's so many, the central location for everyone to have it. And everyone's favorite motion of the night?
So moved.
Don't jump in there, Bill.
All those in favor?
I'm sorry, I didn't get that at all.
And it's 9 o'clock.
I'm sorry, what was that?
8:56.
Who made the
motion?
I did.
You seconded it?
Hey, John, I'll get the funding